Hi, I'm Alvina Ling,
And I'm Grace Lin.
and we're book friends.
Forever!
We're childhood friends,
Who grew up to be
a children's book editor.
and an author and illustrator. Yay!
Welcome to Book Friends Forever. This is the Special Sales with Jenny Mandel episode.
And don't forget to follow us on Instagram and YouTube at bookfriendsforever_podcast.
So, as you can tell from our episode title, and if you're watching on video, you'll know that we have a special guest, my colleague Jenny Mandel, who is let me see if I got this right, Executive Director of Premium, Proprietary, Author Sales, and New Markets at Hachette Book Group. Is that
Correct.
right? So welcome to our podcast, Jenny. And would you like to introduce yourself a little bit more for our audience?
Sure. I'm so happy to be here, and all of those titles are true. What's probably most relevant is that I have been doing some portion of special sales for my entire publishing career, except for 6 months. And that was my very first job out of college, my first 6 months in publishing. It's been special sales ever since then. And it's totally the best job in publishing in the way I'm wired. So,
Oh, awesome. Well, we're
Oh,
very
wow. I can't wait to
excited.
hear more about it.
Yeah, we will hear more about it very shortly. But first, as you know, we always catch up with each other's lives. So we'll start first. Grace, how have you been?
I've been kind of stressed out. I'm really working hard to get my paintings done for this deadline. As you know, but I don't know if the audience knows, I somewhat last minute decided to double the amount of art in the book. And so, which I feel very confident will make the book better, but it is really stressful for me. So I'm really working hard to get all this done. So yes, I'm a little stressed out, but it was Labor Day weekend, so Hazel had three friends stay and they camped out in our backyard and they had a great time screaming and yelling the whole time. And we're growing milkweed in our backyard, and we have found that we have a bunch of monarch caterpillars
Yay!
all over the milkweed, and in that spirit, we actually went to this place called Magic Wings, which is in Deerfield, which is about 20 minutes away from here, which is basically we call it the butterfly place. Basically, it's like a butterfly sanctuary, and we went there to see if they could tell us when we could expect our caterpillars to turn into chrysalises. I'm actually kind of worried about them because it's getting so cold at night, and when I see them in the morning, they're just like not moving. I'm like, did they freeze to death? But then they warm up as the sun comes out and then start eating again. So I think everything's okay. And I'll let you know when they turn into chrysalises.
So did the sanctuary, did they tell you like, oh, it'll be in a
I
couple
couldn't find.
weeks or no?
I went into the nursery and like I went looked at their like little nursery. I should have asked somebody, but we had four teenagers with us. They didn't want us to talk to anybody. And so I just kind of tried to learn through
Mhm.
osmosis in the area. So I think they're okay from everything I read on the nursery wall. So
Yes. Exciting.
how about you?
Um, I have been good. Yes, it was Labor Day weekend. I think our company made a mistake and gave us an extra week of half-day Fridays
yes, they
because,
did.
yes, which I'm happy about because I was actually really sad thinking that last Friday was our last half-day Friday, but we had one more. So I'm excited that this week we can continue that tradition before we can officially start fall. Um, but I had a really nice 3-day weekend. We went out to Jersey because it was my husband Steven's, his mother's birthday was actually Tuesday, but we went out over the weekend to celebrate and we went on a nice hike to this place called Greenwood Sanctuary, which was really lovely and had a great view of the Hudson. And we took one of our nephews, Granger, along with us, and that was lovely. And then Jenny, I think you live in Brooklyn too, but I don't
I
know where.
do.
I live
I'm
in
in,
Crown Heights.
and I'm in Carroll Gardens.
Okay, so for me, I live right on Eastern Parkway, which is where the West Indian Day Parade goes
Oh,
every Labor Day. And it's very loud and celebratory. And sometimes we try to leave to avoid it, and sometimes we just embrace it and watch it. So this year we decided to embrace it and watch it basically from our front stoop. And we had two friends come by, one of whom had never, gone before because she's from California. And so, she's a photographer, so it was quite a experience for her. And that was great. So yeah, otherwise just editing along. I have some of my manuscripts for next fall have come in, and I'm in the process of editing all of that. And picture books too. Picture books are, I feel like I'm mostly working on winter and summer 2027 right now. Um, but I know Grace, but you're working on the art, so I don't have to edit the text anymore. Jenny, how about you? How have you been?
I've been great. I spent the weekend, I flew to Burbank, California
Oh,
to
nice.
visit my big brother who is moving out of his house of maybe 30 years. He was
Wow.
tired of he was up in the hills of Burbank, right in like peak prime fire evacuation
Oh,
zone.
wow.
And he just said, I can't do it anymore. I can't pack up my cat and my belongings and just fear what's going to happen. So he was able to sell his house, and as a hopefully a good baby sister, I went and I helped him set up his new place, which is adorable and very sweet and very much. It seems like it's away from you know the
Fire,
fire area, but who knows?
but it's
But
still in Southern California, LA.
he's in Glendale now, so
Okay.
a couple miles away. But
Hmm.
it was fun helping him imagine what his kind of new place would look like, much smaller. We had to figure out what to downsize and give away and what to keep, and lots of books left over from our childhood, which
Oh.
were definite keeps, but it was just
Hmm.
fun to see them and see them come out from the storage locker. So it was a great weekend, and his new
Nice.
place is looking amazing. So
That's awesome. Great. Well, okay, so now we'll dive into special sales. Why don't we start by, why don't you, Jenny, talk about how you broke into the publishing industry and started working in special sales in the first place? And also, I'm curious how long you've been at HPG.
sure, sure, sure. So I started in publishing right out of college, and it's a kind of particular story to my family. So my parents were both editors for Life magazine.
Oh,
My brothers were both in publishing. The brother that I just went to help, he worked for a division of Little Brown in Boston. So, full publishing family. I just didn't know that that's what I wanted to do. I was pre med in college until I failed organic chemistry and then became an English major, like all good failed pre meds. But my dad, when I was very, very young, had been writing a novel, a war story, and Random House was the publisher. He died halfway through. I was
Hmm.
tiny, and my mom finished the book,
Wow.
and they agreed to publicize it on its own merits, not as, Grieving Widow finishes husband's book and the
Hmm.
sensation of that. And it was just this feeling of Random House, what a great company. They were so good to
Hmm.
us. And so I sent a cold pitch letter to the Random House HR department and said I'd love a job in publishing. They gave me a typing test because that's really what mattered.
Hmm.
And they said, you have a choice. There's the business track in publishing, or there's the editorial track, and you have to choose right now. And I was
Wow.
like, I choose business. I don't know. I don't know. But and I started out in the education department. That was my 6 month job that I told you about. And the person who was handling special sales for Valentine sat right behind me, and she left. And I convinced my boss. I said, let me try my hand at this. I was like this fresh out of college kid. Let me try my hand at this. Let's try it for 6 months and see how it goes. And
Wow.
here I am. So, so that's how it went. But so I was at Random House for about 8 years, and the company I kind of admired and could tell their books by their cover was Workman Publishing.
Mm-hmm.
So a job opened up at Workman, and it was not really the job of my dreams. It was a piece of special sales that's probably the hardest to be successful in. And and I can talk about it later, but it was not the job of my dreams, but it was the company of my dreams. And
okay.
I was hired by Workman. I was there for 30 years, and then came over to Hachette when HBG purchased Workman, and I've been here for 4 years, and it's been amazing. It's incredible to find a place that feels like home when you really felt like you were home. So it's a complete surprise that bigger corporate publishing can feel, special as well.
Right. Okay, so we've been saying special sales, and I know a lot of our listeners probably have no idea what that even means. So could you define special sales?
I sure can. So in the broadest sense, and maybe the way that it's really non-bookstore, whether it's brick and mortar or online. So it's non-bookstore sales. So that could be a big giant retailer like Anthropologie or Urban Outfitters or TJ Maxx or Sur La Table, any place books are sold, which is not a typical bookstore. But it can also be so many other things. It could be a subscription box. It could be a mail order catalog that you still get in your mailbox, probably at least around the holidays. They're kind of a little bit of a strange, different breed these days, but they're still mail order catalogs. It could be a premium sale, which is really what I've spent a lot of my career focusing on. And that's when books are purchased either by a company or an organization for giveaway. So either it could be an early literacy program, it could be an obstetrician wanting to give away a copy of a pregnancy guide so their patients won't call them in the middle of the night with a silly question. It could, it's that giveaway to either promote their product or service or just do a nice charitable thing. And then there's also proprietary sales, and that's where we will customize a book for a particular customer. So it could be a retail customer who has very strict feelings about either what a retail price should be, like one of the discounters like Five Below, or it could be the price clubs like Costco or Sam's or BJ's, where they want to pack in a ton of value in a package and want to present something to their customer that feels brand new. I think I've covered, and then and author sales also falls into my bucket. So it's this just, a little bit of everywhere a book could be sold or given away that's not a bookstore. Does that help? I know it's
Yes, that definitely
okay.
helps. And so what does your job entail right now?
So my job, I oversee the piece that it is not the retail piece. So the retail piece, those big retailers and small gift shops and toy stores, that's handled by our gift sales team.
Hmm.
They also handle specialty wholesalers that feed into those stores. I handle everything else. So
Hmm.
premium sales, proprietary, author. I'm also looking for quirky new markets for our books. Um, a pretty good example of that is one of our imprints just published a kid's book called Goodnight Pickleball.
Hmm.
And immediately in my brain, how do we get this book embraced by pickleball players? Well, they're going to either clubs or courts, venues. Do those venues have gift shops? Do they want to give a member gift? Do they want to give a tournament gift? So that's a pretty typical special sales. How do we get this into the hands of the audience that really needs it most?
That's exciting. So it's well, maybe we'll get into that later, but so I'm curious, at what point in the publishing process do you start working on the books? Is it sales conference?
It's at sales, even before sales conference, I'm identifying the titles, and in each one of the pieces that make up my kind of piece of the pie require something different. But in general, we're sales conference is the kicking off point, but we do our actual pitching and outreach for the most part much closer to pub date
Hmm.
than other salespeople because we're dealing with non-traditional book buyers. And when they're ready to order, they're ready to order. They're not ordering season ahead and they're
Hmm.
not ordering using Edelweiss catalogs. It's just a different cadence and a different way to pitch. The more traditional piece of my bucket, the accounts that are mail order catalogs or subscription boxes or non-traditional online retailers, they they can look at an Edelweiss catalog, they can order a little bit ahead of time, but everyone else is really close to pub.
Right.
So that's when so we're kind of doing everything. So our outreach typically hits and somebody can place an order right away.
I know. So I think you had mentioned to me out separately that subscription boxes were kind of were newer to you, but
Correct.
how far? Because I know some of them are planning maybe a year in advance or 6 months in advance, or do you know how in general how far in advance they
And
do?
I'm just learning the cadence there. Some
Mhm.
are like the really known kids subscription boxes like Kiwi Crate. They're working well in advance. Some of the newer, smaller startups seem to be very scrappy and ready and willing to turn on a dime. What I'm seeing, which because this is new to me, I find so surprising, is they'll come to us and say, can you customize everything about the format? I want new format. I want sprayed edges. I want a new title
Mhm.
page. And it's all happening very, kind of concurrent with our own publication. And you try to do the right thing and make sure that our own special editions have their own special place in the world. So I'm still learning. So
Mhm.
it's
Yeah. Is there anything that is helpful for you to hear from the book's editor or the author that would help you sell a book into any of these special markets?
absolutely. I think it's it depends on the book. The fiction piece is hard. So
Mhm.
there we're primarily, again, it's depending on which one of my channels we're talking about, but if it's the premium channel where books are given away, our biggest target is early literacy programs, and there I think we don't really need help from editors. I think it's the nonfiction books or the books that clearly have that identifiable special market. So an example is another one of our imprints, Story Publishing, published a book called My Grief Comfort Book, and it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a a comfort book for kids who have lost a parent or a grandparent or a pet. And how do you get that book into the hands that will then get it into kids' hands? So in that case, the author had some contacts with hospice programs, hospital-based. I went and built a target list of grief support groups. And what's incredibly helpful, we're just doing cold outreach. We're going to organizations that are not expecting to hear from us. And we have to somehow convince them that this is the right book for them to buy in bulk. I mean, we're asking for a bulk sale at the end of the day. It's not a big bulk, it's 10 or more copies, but why I'm coming in over the transom, no one's expecting me. It's so helpful if an author has testimonials ready to go. Mm-hmm. So in this case, the author was a licensed grief counselor with multiple testimonials in that industry where we could say this book is, going to do exactly this for your clients and is supportive, and here are the people who are using it in their practice every day. So that's, if my one wish is, if there is an opportunity to have a testimonial for your book, please have it. It's wonderful.
Great, that's helpful. So you mentioned, like 10, more than 10 copies or more. Is that considered a bulk buy?
That's considered bulk, yeah.
So is there any sale that feels too small, I guess, for your market, or you're just like anything where you can sell 10 or more is fair game?
It's, it's many are not so small. Mm-hmm. I think, it's funny. It's such a good question. I wonder what our typical order size is. If we looked at one channel like premium sales, we have early literacy programs ordering 10,000 at a time, 15,000 at a time. But the pickleball venues were definitely not. They were ordering 10. Mm-hmm. But I think we're happy with an order of any size, because I think it's exposure. Right. Those 10 people love that book. They're talking about it. I think we also, it's a little bit like a scavenger hunt. We get smarter and better as we go along. So here's a funny but perfect example of how this all kind of leads to something else. When I was at Workman, we published a cookbook called Good and Cheap, and it was recipes that you could make on a $4 a day food stamps budget. Filled with these amazing healthy recipes. So my job was, how do I get this in the hands of food pantries and hunger relief organizations? And as I was doing all of that outreach and building mailing lists and calling and emailing, I found my way to WIC, which is Women, Infant, and Children, the government program that basically administers food stamps. And I discovered that WIC programs actually want to put books into kids' hands very early on. So from 0 to 5, and I hope WIC continues to do this. We don't know, but we sure hope.
Yeah.
They want to put a first book in a child's hands and keep going. The stipulation is interesting, though. It has to be about healthy eating, which makes sense, and exercise. So then you have to go on the scavenger hunt of what are the books that we have. And Alvina, when I first started at HBG, I was like, I've got to get my hands on every book that meets that criteria. But in the case of a WIC program ordering, they could order 25,000 copies of a single title and hand it out statewide. So it can be a very big deal.
And would you, I feel like special sales are generally high discount sales without returns. Is that accurate, or are they all?
So this is interesting because it definitely not as high as I think people believe. I mean, our discounts are actually pretty typical. We don't offer crazy high discounts unless we're doing and even then it's fairly standard and it is non-returnable. So I feel like that's the misconception about special sales, that somehow we're offering all of this for, for pennies on the dollar. We're not. It's pretty typical discounts, not, I wouldn't think much different than a major retailer's or a minor retailer's getting. It's all quantity based.
Mhm.
So if you order more, you get more. I think the tricky thing is how people find their way to us, because you as readers, you're reading a book and you love it and you think, oh, I want to use it in this way. I have this organization or this event or this moment. How do you find your way to special sales? Because no one knows who we are. So one of the first things I did when I came over to HBG was I made sure that our copyright page tells you how everyone how to find their way to us. So it seemed like a simple change.
That's smart. Yeah, I didn't realize that. Right. And I know sometimes, I'll get random requests or questions. And, we at Hachette, we have an intranet site called Bookends, and we have a great page called Who Sells What? And I use that all the time.
I
So
know it's
I,
what.
I have randomly emailed you a lot about maybe mostly about author sales, but sometimes it's something else. I don't know.
Right, and it's hard to know because we all specialize in what we specialize. It's funny, I forgot to mention this, but because people don't really know what special sales are, um, I was at a party as a single person chatting with this guy who had walked in, and we're sitting there talking. He's like, tell me about what you do. And I said, oh, you probably wouldn't understand. It's this may be, you've never heard of this. It's non-traditional, non-bookstore sales. And he goes, oh, special sales. And I was like, you are the man I'm going to marry. And I did.
Oh my gosh. Did he work in publishing?
He worked for Curtis Brown for a very brief period, but his college roommate's wife was in special sales.
Oh,
so yeah,
that's a neat cute.
Yeah, isn't that so? It's all because he knew the answer. When I told him that I was doing your podcast, he said, "Be sure to tell them the meeting you at a party story."
Yes.
So I
filled that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how do you pitch our list? I mean, it doesn't, obviously you're not pitching our whole list to every account. So are you just kind of like looking at what sparks your curiosity?
We are, and
Yeah.
everybody's looking at it with the lens of their particular channel. So the person who handles subscription boxes and mail order catalogs and that channel, which we call direct response, will look at all of the titles that you publish with her lens. There's another person who is focused on proprietary, always looking at, for proprietary, we tend not to change the format on something until it's really backlist. We want books to, fly on their own before we start really playing around with the package and the format. We don't wait too long though. But I will say, a lot of what we do. Oh, and then I'm sorry, for the premium side, I'm going title by title. So if there's a new book, when I was thinking about Invisible Leash and was so excited to do outreach there because it just seemed so prime to try to get this into the hands of vets who might give this out to kids in their practice where, a beloved family pet had just been put down. So we're looking at it each with our own lens. We do a lot of backlist work. I mean, there is no such thing as a title that's off our radar. It just has to stay on because somebody's going to want something that, we published 10 years ago. It's just the way it works. So yeah. I looked before we joined, and it's 2/3 of what our sales were last year were backlist,
That's
which
interesting.
is, yeah.
That's
So
great.
it's,
That's so interesting.
I know when we published Grace's Chinese menu, we did hope that there would be some special sales or different accounts. I don't know how successful that was.
we did a ton of outreach. We had, I think a handful of what I would say like core. I love the quirky sales, but I also think outreach is part of the thrill of it, because even if you don't get the sale, you're getting the book into somebody's hands or in their inbox, and there's awareness.
hmm So it's
And
like
that
publicity.
just, it is publicity. And
hmm
I always wonder, like, if what we do, can you see the effect elsewhere? And I firmly believe that you can. Um, as evidenced, with the pickleball outreach, this happened to be an author, and this really never happens. They presented me with a full spreadsheet of every pickleball venue in the United States.
Wow.
Literally all I had to do was the outreach. Never happened. So I was such a gift, but there were so many responses that were also not bulk orders, but we'd love to have you come by our club. We love this book. We can't.
hmm
So even a non-order becomes a touch point in a way.
Yeah,
So
that's true. What percentage of special sales do you feel are children's books? Do you know that percentage?
I'd say it's about a quarter
hmm
of the broader special. So much more on, on the adult side, which is sad, because I love kids books. And I think there's, it's fun when you can find the right format that really lends itself to something special. And an example that I really worked hard on when I was at Workman was Brain Quest, the question
hmm
and answer cards for kids. I thought, wouldn't it be fun to see if we could create custom Brain Quest decks that would make sense for companies to use as giveaways? So Kellogg Cereal said, we'd like to give you the back of our cereal boxes if you can come up with Brain Quest questions that are cereal related. Not easy. So, I said, how about, you know, breakfast, healthy start to your day related? So there was a little compromise, but Nestle Toll House did a custom deck, and these were all given away as gifts with purchase. So
hmm
all of that leads to exposure, exposure, exposure.
Yeah,
So,
that's great.
and
Do you
same
find
is
that
true. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
do you find that things have changed with well, things are so much more internet based now, and you've been doing this for so long. Has that changed how you approach things, or not really?
It's interesting. It's a really good question. We used to do a ton of physical snail mail outreach. That's pretty much gone. In fact, this is not at all related to kids' books, but it's, Workman is the publisher of the best-selling pregnancy guide in the country, What to Expect When You're Expecting. So we had to figure out how to get that book embraced by obstetricians. It was not a book written by a doctor. It was the first pregnancy book not written by a physician. So we started going to the annual convention of obstetricians and handing that book out.
Hmm.
So we started with a bunch of conventions, odd conventions, a lot of outreach by snail mail, and then get back to your question, it's really shifted to email outreach, which is tough because you're not really, I'm sure, loving the moment where you get some, spammy email in your inbox. So we are really, really careful to make sure our outreach is not canned. It doesn't feel like a cold pitch. It feels like, I understand what your service is.
Mhm.
I think this book would be helpful to your customers, your clients. Here's why. Here are the testimonials. And we offer a copy. And we'll send a digital galley, and we'll offer a copy. And most of the time the galley is enough, but the offer of a copy, I think, provides comfort that we're not just there to spam you.
Right.
Do you find that, because there seems to be like so many self-published people who are like very, very aggressive about these. I just imagine that it's really hard for people who you are um, trying to reach out to. It must be really hard for them to figure out how to filter um, who they want to hear from. And I was curious if you had any special ways of like getting through.
It's funny. I think like this would seem like the last thing I would have imagined, but outreach on Fridays seems to work really well. I think there is this leftover from, I guess it's, when we were working at home during COVID and now kind of we have remote schedules, people I feel like have left Friday as somewhat of their sacred day where they're a little, more meeting free. So Friday seems to be very, it's like the day. I there's some outreach where, and again, it depends on which piece of my bucket we're talking about. Like if it's early literacy programs, they know what they want. So we're making sure to keep them up to date on every title we're publishing each season. If it's title specific outreach, we're just creating a mailing list from scratch. I'm really eager to see if AI can be helpful with mailing list creation because I think there's, Alvina, you asked in our just notes back and forth beforehand if there's a piece of my job that I don't love. And it's the work of creating an outreach list because it just feels so repetitive. So I'm trying to train my AI bot to be helpful. Thus far, it's a little quirky, but
Well, since you answered the least favorite, what is your favorite part of your job?
I love that every day is different and every book is different. I don't sell a single account. We sell 7,000 accounts. I actually think it's 9,000 accounts. And it's so every day is different. You have no idea if it's going to be a premium sale, a proprietary sale. Are we working on a book that LBYR published 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or last month? Is it 10 copies? Is it 10,000 copies? Does somebody want a cover change? Is there a dedication going in? Does somebody want an all new book? That actually happens. We just had I'm not going to give details because it isn't quite done yet, but a major library system come to us because they wanted a book created for their very youngest library card holders. So you just never know. So you're not always selling through the entire list or everyone's list, but you're touching everybody's list and you keep at it because we just don't give up. So
Is there like a minimum for Little Brown to do a new title page, or just is there like there must be a minimum? Like you wouldn't do that for 10 books, obviously.
no. I mean, typically our we try to keep it to 10,000 or more, because that's really a legitimate print run. You can go back, it's economical, you can make changes, and it stands on its own. If we can do fewer because we're joining a reprint and what's being asked is something pretty simple, we'll do that. And you'll see that a lot for colleges and universities that are ordering books for like a one campus reads. They'll often want their logo on the cover or inside, and there we'll try to do it for fewer copies because that's a big quantity.
We do love those.
So, and we're not doing a lot with YA, which is, it's hard to miss out on entire segments of our publishing, and we don't do a ton with graphic novels. There's just certain subsets that we And hopefully that changes one day. But for now, those seem like the areas we don't touch.
Mhm. Grace, do you want to ask the last question?
Sure. So is there something you wish that all authors and illustrators knew about special sales?
I feel like every answer in a way has answered that question,
Yeah.
but I think it's just that I don't know that people think about special sales when they're writing a book and think about these other opportunities. They're thinking, what's my Amazon number going to be? And, how many am I going to sell through, Barnes and Noble or Costco or, wherever traditional books are through the indies. I don't know that they're thinking about these other pieces. And we love what we do. It's an incredible team of people. We have 14 people working on different pieces of the business. And so I think we just want them to know we're here for you. We love hearing ideas. We love being pointed to things because our lists are so huge that we don't want to miss anything. And if an author has an idea, we want to hear it. It doesn't always mean we can do it, but we're certainly going to try.
Nice. All
Thank
right. Well, that was really enlightening.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah, so we're going to move on to our fortune cookie segment. And because we are recording this post Labor Day, we thought we'd just talk about what we're looking forward to in the fall. Grace, why don't you start? What are you
Uh,
looking forward to?
I'm looking forward to finishing my work because it seems like everything is due in the fall and like it looks like it's all due like mid-October. I don't know. Once it's done, I'm looking forward to finishing it all. But at the same time, fall is actually my favorite season. I love the leaves and I love all that stuff. And I love how now I can go out running and not have to like sweat so much. And like it's just so I guess I'm looking forward to finishing my work so that I can enjoy the fall. That's what I'm looking forward to. How about
That's
you,
nice.
Alvina?
Um, I have two trips coming up in October. The first is to Corning, New York, to run a half marathon.
Nice.
Um,
Oh,
which, yeah, my friend Tracy suggested she had heard that it's a really nice one because it's all very flat and also very beautiful. So that's at the beginning of October. And then in mid-October, I'm heading to Colorado, the Denver area for an SCBWI conference. And I haven't done an SCBWI conference all year. Uh, I have quite a lot to prep for it, but I'm excited to go because there are a lot of illustrators that I work with, or that Little Brown publishes. So Sophie Blackall is going to be there, Lei Wen Pham is going to be there, and then Saki Tanaka, who is an author illustrator who we haven't yet published, but I have a book signed up with, is going to be there as well. And I'm extending my stay for like 3 days, and Stephen is going to come with me, and we're going to make it a little vacation. So I'm
Nice.
really excited about that. And of course, I'm excited for sweater weather.
I like sweater weather too,
yeah.
like
Yes.
too hot.
How about Jenny? How about you?
So we've got a trip planned. My husband and I are going to Sicily in the middle of
Nice.
October.
Nice.
So it's
And
funny,
that's a good time to go
good
too. Yeah.
time. I think it's going to be less crowded, not as
Not
hot.
hot.
Yeah.
So I've been listening to him in the background, practicing his Italian, which he has none, using Duolingo. And now we are watching um, Italian television, the detective television show, so he can really hone up on his newly acquired Italian. So I'm really looking
In
forward to
case you
that.
discover a murder out there.
Right, exactly. And it's all going well until last night when he said, it's so funny. You and I talked about the dates and I thought I had them right on my calendar, but for some reason, Kayak has something different. And it turns out Kayak had ingested our flight dates
Oh,
incorrectly. So Adam had built our entire
oh no.
itinerary one day off.
Oh.
So I had a very, very cranky, barely Italian speaking husband last night trying to redo all of our travel.
Oh my
But that's
gosh.
what I'm
Well, at
looking
least you
forward to.
discovered
But at
it
least you
in
discovered
enough
it
Yes,
time.
correct.
now. See, it's better to
Correct.
be cranky now than to be there and be like, what?
Correct. And the
Uh,
other thing I'm looking forward to is both of my daughters are going to be suddenly back in our nest. I have a daughter living in Manhattan who's moving 10 minutes from us, and another daughter who is moving in with us with her boyfriend. So we are about to go from empty nesters to full
Full
nesters, and I'm
nesters.
so excited.
oh,
Nice.
that's exciting.
Yep.
Yes. All right. So now we'll end as we always do with what we're grateful for. I can start this week. I feel like the last couple of weeks for me have been full of these small kind of serendipitous coincidences. And one, I'll just name two. One is I mentioned Taiwanese food last week. So, maybe 2 weeks ago, my husband had ordered food from this Taiwanese restaurant that's in Bushwick. And when he ordered it, and that was the first time he had ordered it because we didn't know it delivered to us, maybe it was newly delivering to our area. And I said, "Oh, I started following this restaurant on Instagram because I had heard that they're opening a location in Prospect Heights." And so basically the very next weekend, they had a soft launch and we went. And then we went again this past weekend because it's so good. So it's just a nice little coincidence and a delicious one at that. And then the other was, Stephen, like a week ago or so, he was just feeling like, I have this feeling I'm going to run into someone from my past. And so there was one Friday where he ran into someone, but he didn't, not, it wasn't actually someone he necessarily wanted to talk to. So he didn't, but he said, okay, well, that's interesting. And then on Saturday night, we're coming back from New Jersey. And all of a sudden, this guy said, Steve Coleman. And it was someone from his poetry days who, he had kind of sporadically been in touch, but basically hadn't really been in touch with since pre-pandemic. And he was there with his wife, and we just talked he also lives in Brooklyn. I think he lives near BAM. So, we had a nice time to kind of catch up. And we said, you should come over, on Labor Day to watch the parade, the West Indian Day parade. And then they did. And it was just, I just, on Monday, I was just kind of marveling at, oh, like we ran into you on Saturday and 2 days later, here you are at our house. And it was just really, really fun. So I am grateful for those kind of coincidences. Um, Grace, what are you grateful for?
Okay, so what am I grateful for? Well, first, I always feel like the great gratitude practice is really good because whatever you're stressed out about, you have to like turn it around. And so I'm like, okay, I'm really stressed out about my work, but I really have to be grateful that I actually have work. I mean, like, 10 years ago,
Yep.
20 years ago, I'd be like, I wish I had work. So you know what? I'm grateful that I have the work that's stressing me out. Um, but what I'm really grateful for besides that is school just started for Hazel. And like I said, she just had three friends come over and do a sleepover. And it was just really nice to see them. They get along so well. I really feel like she has like this real group of friends. Like I feel like so much more than I ever had when I was her age. Like they're all kind of like nerdy dorks and they love being nerdy dorks and like they embrace it. Like I feel like when I was her age, like I didn't want to be a nerdy dork. I was, like you were kind of friends with other nerdy dorks, but you were embarrassed. Like it was like this really like thing. They're like proud and happy and like they're just so happy and so confident in being themselves and they're so happy being with each other, being with themselves. And I think that's just such a beautiful thing. And that's gives me hope for these younger generations. I feel like what has happened, at least with seeing Hazel and all her friends, is like I feel like they're so much more confident in who they are than I ever remember being, and I think that's only a good thing. So
Yeah,
that's what I'm grateful for.
that's nice.
I love
Jen,
that.
Jenny, how about you? What are you grateful for?
So I'm going to echo each of you by saying I'm so grateful for my work because I love it. I'm so grateful for Taiwanese food. Went to Taiwan because our daughter was
Oh,
living there teaching English,
oh,
and now I
wow.
Oh,
need to find
nice.
out from you where that restaurant is.
Yes.
And I was filled with gratitude. We had to clean out our basement to make room for our son incoming daughters. And we had, when they were growing up, put every bit of their artwork and schoolwork, and I'm not kidding, it was just a kind of path of least resistance. We just put it in these giant bins. So they each have a giant bin. And I was like, guys, let's start going through this. And they were so angry. They're like, we don't want to do this. Why did you save everything? And I just loved watching them go through it. And I loved watching to see what they kept and what they thought was ridiculous. And it was just, I'm so grateful that we didn't kind of kind of edit and just dumped it all in there and let them do it.
Let them do it. Yeah. I would love that. I would have loved that if my parents
I know,
had
I
done
love
that.
that kind of stuff. I wish I had more of my old stuff.
Do you want some of theirs? Because they would be happy.
Well, that's the problem now, is because now we have so much of Hazel's old stuff, because I can't decide. So it's completely the smart thing to do, because I keep everything and we've got too much. So like I need her to go through and like.
But it's funny, they were, Izzy, my daughter, was like, this is ridiculous. Like this, how could you, she'd hold something up. I'm like, okay. But yeah, I wasn't making choices. I was just putting it in the bin. But she kept an amusing, sweet pile of stuff. And it was so fun going through it. It was fabulous.
Yeah.
So,
oh, that's great. Yay.
So I'm grateful for a lot.
The Taiwanese restaurant is called Formosa Dumpling, and it's on Dean and Underhill.
Ooh, we should go when I
Yes. And I think it's still kind of soft open, so I think it's only open on the weekends, but I think they'll be fully open.
That sounds amazing.
Soon enough, because every time we've gone, it's been full.
I just realized, Jenny, that you're grateful for decluttering, which is such a weird,
I know.
which is a good way to turn it around.
Right, that's right. Our basement does not look like any decluttering happened.
All right, so that was the special sales with Jenny Mandel episode. Thanks for joining us, and thanks to Alex at PC Work Studio for editing this podcast. Please rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and tell a friend about it.
And tag us on social media using the hashtag BookFriendsForever or send us a message via Instagram at BookFriendsForever_podcast or via our website, bookfriendsforever.com. I can't believe I don't have this memorized. Please join our Patreon. The link is in the show notes.
I'm Alvina Ling, and you can find me at Planet Alvina on TikTok and at Alvina Ling on Instagram, Blue Sky, and Threads. Jenny, if you would like people to find you, where can they find you?
I am on both Facebook and Instagram, but I'm not very active. So find me on LinkedIn, probably the easiest way.
Okay.
And I'm Grace Lin, and you can find me at Pacey Lin on Instagram and Threads, and author Grace Lin on Facebook, and Grace Lin author on TikTok.
Have a great week.
And don't forget to read.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. I love this. Thank you so much.